Welcome back to Moss, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to FIA Formula 4 Central European Zone. The 2026 season is well and truly underway. This is round 4 of 6. We're getting ready for race number 2 here at Autodrom Most. I am Daniel Espada. I will be your commentator today for the second of 4 races this weekend. We've had some great images from race number 1. A very wet opening race of the weekend, and guess what? The rain has come back for race number 2. Not as intense, of course, just a couple of spits of rain after hours and hours of dry running, but this is the starting grid for race number 2. Theo Borenstein starts on pole in front of Elia Weiss. This will be Weiss's first race of the weekend. Marka Sirkunas and Simon Rechenmacher in 3rd and 4th, with Francesco Piocoppola and Ella Häkkinen on the 3rd row of the grid. Antonio Rigo, Georgi Zhazov, David Gorčica and Viktor Poulsen rounding out the top 10 for what will be a very interesting second race of this weekend, as the rest of the field now appears on screen. It will be very interesting to see whether or not the racetrack has become wet, or if drivers will race on slick tires, because the sun now is starting to peek out of the very dense clouds that have come to Most to watch the entertaining races together with us. But a few drops of rain in the last couple of minutes may have thrown a spanner in the works for this race. We are getting ready for the second of the 4 scheduled races this weekend. Groups B and C coming out on track together. This will be the last race for group number B and the first one for group C. As we said, it will be Theo Borenstein to start on pole. He was this close to winning the opening race of this weekend, which ultimately went into the hands of Max Karhan, which was great for the home hero, as he will now watch from the sidelines as he is part of Group A, and therefore will be back on track tomorrow for race number 3 at 9 a.m. local time. Theo Borenstein instead will try to go for his first race win this weekend. Alongside him on the front row will be the other Jenzer Motorsport car of former championship leader Elia Weiss. The other championship leader, the current one, David Walther, is in the pits watching along, as he too is part of Group A and therefore won't be out on track for this race. Then it's Marka Sirkunas in 3rd, Simon Rechenmacher in 4th, as he makes his debut this weekend after not racing in race number 1. He is one of the very few drivers who were able to win this season. He is one of the 5 drivers who were able to do so after Walther, Weiss, Borenstein and Karhan. Here is the Czech flag flying proud as the spectators were able to see a phenomenal Czech 1-2 in race number 1 with Karhan and Borenstein, and David Walther, the Danish driver championship leader, rounding out the podium. Here is row number 3. You can see the McLaren colors on the back of the screen. That's Ella Häkkinen for Jenzer Motorsport. She's part of the McLaren junior team. She will start alongside Francesco Piocoppola in car number 78. You can see him right there fighting hard for what could be a first podium place of the season. He was 4th at the Salzburg Ring in race number 1. He's coming back to racing after a torrid time at the Slovakia Ring, where he failed to qualify to the final after having finished outside of the top 20 on both races he had partaken in that weekend. Coppola sitting in 11th in the driver standings before this race weekend in Most, the 4th one of the season. If this is your first time joining us, we've had plenty of fun so far in 2026. We started things off at the Red Bull Ring, where David Walther took the win in races 3 and 4, as well as the championship lead. It was then Elia Weiss's time to shine, as he took both wins at the Salzburg Ring, becoming the championship leader, which then switched back to David Walther after the Slovakia Ring, where he took 3 consecutive podiums. Walther is on a streak of 9 consecutive podium finishes, counting the one that happened earlier today. whereas Elia Weiss is yet to stand on the podium since the opening race of the Slovakia ring round a couple of months ago. He had won 3 of the opening 5 races, but since then a 2nd, a 4th and a 6th place to round out a good but not astonishingly good weekend in Orechova Poton. He will start from the front row today alongside Theo Borenstein, a driver who came out victorious from the Slovakia ring round, having won 2 races and finished 2nd in the grand final, and is now sitting in 3rd in the championship, just 22 points behind Walther. He has gained 4 more points in race number 1 in Most, finishing in 2nd ahead of Walther, who was in 3rd. But of course we don't count them until the grand final of this weekend, because there are some drivers who have raced once already, whereas others are yet to race this weekend. And those will be the ones starting in the even grid slot numbers. And that is Elia Weiss, Simon Rechenmacher, Ella Häkkinen, Georgi Zazov and Viktor Poulsen regarding the top 10. Then we have Alexei Danielson, Ivan Simironova, Igor Polak, Patrik Lipovic, Tobias Pashko, Nikolai Dirvev, Albert Pijarik and Jorge Luis Bruno rounding out the grid. Here are the 2 Jenzer Motorsport drivers getting ready to start things off from the front row of the grid. We had a rolling start for the opening race of this weekend because of the heavy rain that had fallen previously. None of the same here, as the drivers will line up for what is the first race for some, the second for others. Now the weather looking much better than it did barely 15 minutes ago. I think the track is fully dry despite the few drops of rain that fell a few minutes ago. Unfortunately, however, for some of the drivers who felt very much at ease in wet conditions, it will not happen this time around. Everyone fitting slick tires. Which means that we'll have a very, very interesting race ahead of us. We're a little under a minute from the start of the formation lap here in Most, a track that opened and broke ground in 2009 and has been on the calendar since the first season of this championship back in 2023. And here we go for the formation lap of race number 2. And it's finally time to see the cars in anger towards turn number 1, of course. It is quite early days to understand what will happen, but of course we are determined to see some green flag racing and some dry running. It's gonna have to be a Jenzer Motorsport masterclass if they want to keep this 1-2. Markas Šilkunas has looked very competitive this weekend, not just this weekend actually, but this entire season. The Lithuanian driver taking home 2 podiums at the Slovakia ring, finishing 3rd in both races 1 and 3. He's always been in the points, always in the top 10. Great consistency that sees him currently in 6th position in the standings with 90 points. That is, of course, one of the most impressive names on the starting grid. Elia Weiss being another one, as he starts from the front row of the field. He's from Germany, and of course will be very delighted to hear the news that Germany itself will have a new Formula 4 series starting in 2027. German F4 becoming a reality once more. He has been around for the past couple of years, racing in Italian F4 last season, and now switching to F4 CEZ, where he is a strong contender for the championship. So we are getting ready to see the cars come on the start-finish straight. It will be Theo Borenstein on pole in front of Elia Weiss, then Markus Schilkunas, Simon Rechenmacher, Francesco Coppola and Ella Häkkinen rounding out the top 6. Let's not forget that 2 of the protagonists of this year's championship, Max Karhan and David Walther, will not be racing today, of course, given that they are part of Group A, which is not on track right now, but will be tomorrow morning at 9 AM sharp for race number 3. As now the cars get ready to start race number 2. Watch out for the lights as they will go out. We will be racing here in Most. On the left-hand side of the track will be Theo Borenstein on pole position. His teammate Elia Weiss in 2nd place. As now teams and drivers get ready to start this race, and you can see the green flag being ready to be waved at the back end of the field as Jorge Luis Bruno has parked his car number 76. As the lights come on, they go out and we are underway, and that is a great start from Elia Weiss already up the inside and alongside Theo Borenstein towards turn number 1. It was also a great getaway from Ella Häkkinen, who looks to fight for a podium place together with Francesco Coppola, who locks up and almost actually does overshoot the corner, but he is still out on track. But out in front, it's Elia Weiss with a perfect getaway. And meanwhile, contact between Georgi Zazov and I think Francesco Coppola into turn number 2, as Zazov has lost his front wing and therefore will be out of contention. But as the pack moves towards the 2nd sector, it is Elia Weiss out in front with Theo Borenstein in 2nd position. We also have a car off into turn number 9 as the green flag is waved from turn number 10 onwards, but fairly sure that we will have to have at least one of the marshals coming towards turn number 2 to get that front wing that has been detached from one of the Jenzer cars of Georgi Zazov. Here he is without a front wing, now being attacked up the inside under the Orlen Bridge. And as the entire group makes his way towards the final couple of corners, we will understand who has come out on top in the fight for 3rd as well, as Elia Weiss has moved into 1st place. Theo Borenstein is in 2nd. Then it should be the Karhan Motorsport driver Simon Rechenmacher in 3rd. But we'll await confirmation. Yes, it is precisely like that. Well, contact for car number 47. That it's Ivan Simeonova on her debut. She spun out ahead of the final corner of the circuit. Meanwhile, Zazov was coming back into the pit. We see now a move from Igor Polak on Michalina Sabai, but unfortunately for him that didn't work, as Michalina has stayed in front. Speaking of staying in front, Elia Weiss is in the lead. Unfortunately, there's also a car that seems to be into the gravel trap. That may be Jorge Luis Bruno, car number 76 for DriveX. A very eventful start for sure, as now people try to gain as many positions as possible, though I think a safety car might come out pretty soon, given the couple of stranded cars. And yeah, my intuition was unfortunately correct, as the safety vehicle is now out on track, which will neutralize racing operations. Here is the safety car rolling out on track ahead of turn number 1, picking up the leader, Elia Weiss, who is in the lead of the race, having done a tremendous job at the start. Borenstein did not have the best getaway he could, and therefore dropped to second position. Rechenmacher is in third, just in front of rookie Elia Häkkinen. You know, here is the front wing that has been left from Zazov on the outside of turn 2. We were speaking about Elia Häkkinen. She is looking for her first podium and her first top 6 finish. This would be her best result, which currently is a 7th place at the Slovakia ring. Ella, of course, being the daughter of 2-time F1 world champion Mika, racing with the Czech flag, so this is basically her home race as well. One of the 2 home races, given that the next round will be in Brno from the 11th to the 13th of September. Meanwhile, here is the stranded Drivex of Jorge Luis Bruno. As we now see the drivers getting bunched up. This will be very interesting to see whether or not Theo Borenstein will be able to retake P1 from Elia Weiss throughout the race. It was very disappointing from him to lose the lead after a not so good getaway. And here is Jorge Luis Bruno finally out of the car, which is great to see. The car now being recovered, so I can only imagine that we will be getting closer and closer to the restart, which could potentially come in the next lap. It could be a very short stint for the safety vehicle out of the track, which is what we hope, of course, given that we want as much green flag racing as possible, especially now in dry conditions where the drivers can truly push their limits. Try and get as close as possible to them. Here is Bruno's car getting recovered. Definitely not the weekend that DriveX wanted. The team has made the switch to this championship this weekend, racing for the first time this season with more than 3 cars. They've had plenty of drivers fiddle out throughout this year in a joint operation with Harp Racing. Jorge Bruno and Simon Bulbarella being 2 of them. And then, of course, Piotr Orchowski being the 3rd car this weekend. Now we can see car number 76 being recovered by the stewards. It will be very interesting to see whether or not Elia Weiss has made the most out of this safety car period. We will definitely have to nurse those tires to the finish, but of course now, given the cool track temperatures and the safety car period that we're under, tire wear is probably not going to be a concern, as the red flag is actually being shown. So perhaps the recovery operations not as easy as we thought, as the clock has been stopped, and therefore drivers will fiddle out towards the pits. Definitely a shame for this race, though of course this will grant a bit more time under green flag conditions. That is definitely a shame for the on-track action, though of course we will be gearing up for another 17.5 minutes of racing in the coming minutes. This red flag of course is the best time for the marshals to clean out the track, being able to take a bit more out of the time that we had. It is a shame of course that the race gets stopped, but maybe that was in the best interests of the grid, especially if we had debris or gravel on the circuit. And then of course it is important to recover some of the cars as well, as they all now peel into the pit lane. It looks like we are missing David Gorčica as well, as his car is not shown in the pits and should have been in 8th position. So maybe that could also be a reason why, as car number 88 looks to be, well, not on track at the moment, which is definitely a shame if that is the truth, and if that's not just a problem with the transponder. So the red flag is out. We will be waiting for official confirmation on the restart time. It is pretty early, of course, to think about that. But so far, we can concentrate on waiting for the perfect moment to restart. As you can see, all the cars are now in the pits, waiting for the right moment to come back onto the circuit. We will have roughly 10 minutes before the start of the restart, actually, after we will be having the confirmation. Still pretty early, but as you can see now, the car and some of the cars being recovered by the marshals again. As now you can see one of the cars being recovered towards the final couple of corners. Unfortunately, the very far camera angle makes it impossible for us to take a look at that. Should be Jorge Luis Bruno in his DriveX, who is unfortunately out of the race. I think Gorčica has now moved back into the pits, as now some people also have fun on the Matilda Lake near us. And meanwhile, here we go with the restart in about 10 minutes or so, which is the greatest news we could have. We can definitely get ready for a restart then in about 9 minutes or so. And this will be very interesting to see, because of course we have Plenty more racing to go, with Elia Weiss and Theo Borenstein leading the field. This is a replay of what happened. Contact that put Jorge Luis Bruno out of the race. Damage to his front right suspension. Which is, of course, not what you want. Especially in such a short kind of race. Let's take a look at the actual standings and what these results would entail, because Elia Weiss would gain massive grounds in the championship because of this. This would be his 4th win of the season, the first driver to take 4 victories, as himself, David Walther and Theo Borenstein are currently stuck on 3. But of course we still have more than 70 minutes left on the clock. Let's not forget that we will be resuming racing in about 7 minutes time, so everything will still be to play for. As now we can see the entire complex of the final 2 corners being shown as the marshals try to clear the track from potential gravel. Naturally, of course, it is quite difficult for the drivers to stay concentrated, stay in the right mindset ahead of a restart. Let's not forget that these are very young drivers that are just starting out in their journeys towards what could be a bright future in single-seaters or in other championships. But this is where you can make the difference with these longer breaks that can throw a spanner in the works for many drivers. Elia Weiss will have plenty to think about ahead of the restart. He will have to make sure that Theo Borenstein doesn't put him under pressure towards turn number 1. It's quite a long way from the final corner to the opening braking zone of the circuit, which makes it for great overtaking opportunities into turns 1 and 2. And even from turn 2 down to turn number 5 in the downhill section that sees many drivers set up a move towards the start of the second sector. We're going to have to figure out whether or not Theo Borenstein will try to make a move on Weiss, or if he will settle for second position at the restart. Though, of course, he was one of the quickest guys in qualifying. He started from pole here in race number 2, which is something that he had done already in 3 of the 4 races in both the Red Bull Ring at the Slovakia Ring. He is, in fact, one of the quickest drivers on 1 lap pace, though has failed to capitalize a couple of times. He has already taken the win, though, on 3 separate occasions in the first ever race of the season at the Red Bull Ring in Spielberg, and then in races 1 and 3 at the Slovakia Ring. He has also started on pole in the grand final in both occasions, though it was once again David Walther winning both of those races, with Borenstein having to settle for second place at the Slovakia Ring and actually missing out on points after contact at the Red Bull Ring. That is the only 0 near his name, which is why he is 22 points behind David Walther in the championships. naturally, of course, this is also a great opportunity for those drivers who are actively trying to pursue their first ever podium. We talked about Mika Häkkinen before, and his daughter Ella, who's out on track and currently in a season best 4th place. It is a season of growth for the young Czech driver, as she is tackling a full single-seater season in Formula 4 for the very first time. She is very young, but still very capable of great results. She is not just involved in F4 CEZ, she's also racing in Euro 4 this season, the E4 Championship being the continental series for FIA Formula 4 certified cars. She's racing the opening 2 rounds of the season, doing a great job between the two of them. And as we now see, there's only 2 minutes from us until the safety car restart, as the security vehicle will bring us once more into action. We will likely have 1 lap behind the safety car before green flag racing resumes here in Most. So, we're about to get underway once more here in Most. Elia Weiss will take the field out on track behind the safety car, with Borenstein and Simon Rechenmacher behind. Then both Ella Häkkinen and Francesco Pio Coppola will be trying to be hot on their heels to score what could be their first podium of their career. Naturally, this would be a phenomenal performance from either of them. It is definitely important for them to bring out the best out of themselves in these final minutes of racing. And here we go, back racing after a very small break. The safety car will bring us into the action once more, as Elia Weiss is behind it once again. This time he will have to prepare a safety car restart from first place. Nothing that he hasn't done yet this season, but the German knows that these are very delicate times, especially in a race this important. He is the prime rival from David Walther in the championship. The two will race against one another tomorrow in race number 3, which will start at 9 AM sharp local time. But in this race, where Weiss has the chance to recover some points on David Walther, who finished 3rd in race number 1, Weiss has to keep 1st or 2nd place to gain points on the Danish driver. Though, of course, a win would mean the world to him. He would become the first driver to win 4 races this season, and he would come back on the podium after missing out on it in the last couple of races at the Slovakia ring. As we now get ready to see whether the safety car will switch off the lights or if he will be behind it for 1 more lap. There's now under 16 minutes left on the clock as we go towards the penultimate corner. I think we will have yet another lap behind the safety vehicle. That is all good and fine for Elia Weiss. Theo Borenstein, however, on the other hand, would have rather had a bit more time to fight his teammate. And behind the two Jenzer Motorsport entries, there's Karhan Motorsport with Simon Rechenmacher, looking dangerously competitive as ever. The German took his maiden victory last time out at the Slovakia ring in race number 2. Unfortunately for him, however, a couple of mishaps throughout the season. In the grand finals that he took part in, he was only 14th at the Red Bull ring and had to retire at the Slovakia ring, which brought him to lose valuable points. Otherwise, he's always finished in the top 4, taking 3 podiums. And as I said, one of them was a win in race number 2 at the Slovakia ring, which is why he's getting dangerously close to finishing on a podium once more. Meanwhile, we see the rest of the pack getting closer and closer to the restart. Meanwhile, we've had the incident under investigations between cars 25 and 26 for causing a collision. That is the accident that made Georgi Zazov lose his front wing after contact with Marko Sirkunas, who has dropped from 3rd all the way down to 12th position. Not the start that the Lithuanian driver wanted. His compatriot Tomas Rudokas down in 17th. Rudokas has been struggling quite a bit this season, but has improved in recent times, scored points on 2 occasions at the Salzburg ring, finishing in 15th and 11th, the 2 races he's partaking in. Then missing out on the points in Slovakia at the Slovakia ring. And as the safety car gets ready to switch off its lights, we are bound to get a restart here in Most. Elia Weiss leading the pack. Theo Borenstein hot on his heels. Simon Rechenmacher getting ready to take advantage of any fight between the two Jenzer Motorsport teammates. And as we gear up for the restart, watch out for the moment where Elia Weiss will press on the accelerator, as the sun has come out to watch the restart again. Here we go. Back on the green flag conditions finally, after almost 20 minutes. Back underway as Elia Weiss rages towards turn number 1. It was a good restart from the top 3, with Rechenmacher quite close to the back of Theo Borenstein, though the latter has the slipstream to defend. And as he looks to the inside of Elia Weiss, he's able to keep 2nd position. Meanwhile, Ella Häkkinen forced out wide from Francesco Pio Coppola, as Häkkinen is forced to cut the maiden chicane of the circuit. Will Coppola take advantage of it and move into 4th? We'll see as we go towards turn number 5. Up the inside goes Coppola, and I think he was able to move into 4th place. Yes, he was. Up into 4th goes Coppola, down into 5th goes Häkkinen. Behind her, Alexia Danielsson, the Step Motorsport driver, has done a phenomenal job. Starting from 12th, she is able to climb all the way up to 6th. Getting ready to stage an all-female fight for 5th position, which would be the best result for either herself or Ella Häkkinen this year. Danielsson has never gone past 13th position, so this is by far her best drive so far. But we have to stay focused on the top 3, as Borenstein and Rechenmacher are hot on Weiss's heels. A big lockup from Theo Borenstein as he goes slightly wide into the penultimate corner, which would leave him vulnerable, not just in the final corner, but especially towards turn number 1. Can Rechenmacher do something, anything, to make the move? I don't think he is close enough, however. Meanwhile, there's a car going through the gravel. That's Ivan Simonova once again. The Matilda Racing new entry has not had an easy time. Meanwhile, fights going on throughout the entire field, as we also see Georgi Zazov trying to regain some time up the inside of Nikolai Dirvdev, the Mafia Racing driver, having a very bad time this time around. He was much more competitive last year, but this year, unfortunately, still with no points to his name. The Danish driver was also able to win a race last year at the Red Bull Ring, so it is very baffling to see him this low on the standings, but unfortunately for him, confidence has not been the keyword of his season, which is instead what you could say about Elia Weiss, who's still at the top of the standings. Borenstein seems to have some pace over him, though of course it is not his moment to shine at the moment, which is perfectly fine for now as he sits in second. Meanwhile, behind, a fight between car number 88 for Yannick Motorsport, that is David Gorczyca, going around the outside of Antonio Rigo, as the Italian, however, keeps the position for now. This is the fight for 8th place, as Dean Pedersen has moved into 7th on the previous lap. But Rigo, after having struggled a bit in race number 1, was looking to defend, but contact between the two sent Rigo into the gravel trap, almost airborne. The question is, has he managed to keep the car going, or has he reported extensive damage to his suspension when landing? I don't see him on the track behind Gorczyca anymore, which could be a bad omen for him. I think he had some damage. Yes, he has lost control of his car due to the extensive damage on the front left suspension, and that is a shame for him, as he now sits out of the race, and this will probably trigger another safety car, which could also be the end of this race, honestly, given that we only have less than 8 minutes. Yeah, the safety car is out. You can see it briefly on the panel. Here it is again, and therefore racing has been neutralized once more, and I don't think we will have enough time to go back to green flag racing, unfortunately. Yeah, as you can see, the safety car is out, meaning that all hopes for a fight for the win which is a shame, of course, given how good the fight was between Weiss and Borenstein. More of a nerving fight, of course, compared to what could have happened on track. It's a shame, of course, given how good this fight would have been. It's also nice, however, to see that Rigo is out from his car and now into the infield section. A shame for the Italian, though. He was very, very good. Not just in this weekend, but this season as well. Unfortunately, however, he was not as lucky as he could have been. out of contention from this race and out of the points. This, of course, makes it so that he will be reminiscing on this contact right here, where he damaged the front left suspension against David Gorčica. Oh, such a shame for him. Meanwhile, we have a little under 5 minutes left on the clock. We're still under safety car conditions. Maybe, just maybe, we will be able to have one final lap should we be quick on time with the restart. And that is if we get the restart at the end of this lap right here. It will give you all information needed. Meanwhile, the incident involving Rigo and Gorčica has been noted by the stewards, of course. They will have quite a tough evening, I think, in front of them. Of course, plenty of action still going on in Most after this race. There's the GT Cup Series endurance race lasting 60 minutes. As the safety car will be in at the end of this lap. We've had official confirmation now, which is stellar to know as we get ready for what is likely going to be either a last lap shootout or 2 more laps until the end of the race. I think we might have 2 actually, which is great to know. The stewards doing everything in their power to have as much time as possible to give to the drivers under green flag conditions, and that is impeccable timing as we go back to green flag racing for the last 2 laps of this race. Elia Weiss taking on the straight towards turn number 1. Theo Borenstein in second position, Simon Rechenmacher in third, as Borenstein almost looks to the inside of Weiss, who is still in the lead, however. Meanwhile, behind, a nice move from Marcas Circunas on the outside of turn 1 and the inside of turn 2 over David Gorčica to move up into 8th position. Meanwhile, there's also fights going on between some of the drivers, and this is Theo Borenstein through the gravel trap and without a front wing. Has there been contact between him and race leader Elia Weiss, I presume, as he is completely missing a front wing, and this is crucial to the championship, as Borenstein will lose plenty of time and valuable points, which definitely go against his title bid. Out front, there's still Elia Weiss, just in front of Simon Rechenmacher and Francesco Pio Coppola, who has now moved into third, with the contact resulting in a red flag for this race. And with just 1 minute and 54 seconds remaining, I don't think we will have a restart. Yeah, we just had confirmation on the live timing as well that the session will not be resumed. Therefore, this marks the end of race number 2, as Elia Weiss will come out victorious to take his 4th win of the season and close the gap to championship leader David Walther even more. This is the replay. Unfortunately, we cannot see the moment of contact or the moment where the moment where the front wing comes off entirely from Borenstein's car. But given that there's a red flag, should the standings be taken from the previous lap, Borenstein will somehow keep 2nd position. That is all to understand. That would make Francesco Pio Coppola furious, as he would have gotten a podium if not for that. Should the standings be taken from the previous lap, of course, Borenstein will be reinstated into second and Rechenmacher in third, with Coppola dropping to fourth. But that would mean that, of course, the original standings would have been reinstated. There's still no confirmation of that so far, but it looks like Borenstein might get very lucky here. But apart from that, it is Elia Weiss taking the win. His fourth success of the season. A phenomenal job from him. He has withstood the entire pressure on his shoulders. That was very difficult to do, especially ahead of the final part of this race. But he was fantastic from start to finish, getting a perfect getaway as the lights went off to take the lead, which then resumed and resulted into the fourth win of the season for him. Here is confirmation that the session will not be resumed, though of course we already knew that, especially given that the trucks are ready, the cars are already in the truck's parc fermé section on the inside of the pit lane, which actively means that Elia Weiss has won this race, further decreasing the gap to the championship leader, David Walther, who was forced to look at this race from the pit lane. Of course, he was not on the starting grid, given that the group he is in was not scheduled to race during this particular heat. He will be back on track tomorrow at 9 a.m. sharp for the third and final heat of the weekend, before the grand final, race number 4, at 2:55 p.m. local time. Elia Weiss will definitely be more than happy to take this win, though of course he would have wanted to do that out on track, just like his teammate Max Karhan did. It's 2 for 2 for Jenzer Motorsport, as they can celebrate once again, winning the first 2 races of the weekend, just like they did at the Salzburg ring and at the Red Bull ring. It didn't happen instead in Slovakia, when Karhan Motorsport was only the 3rd team to become victorious this season, when he took victory with Simon Rechenmacher at the Slovakia ring. Rechenmacher will be pleased with today's performance as well, as he is on the podium in 3rd place. Borenstein looks to have been reinstated to 2nd, which would leave Francesco Coppola livid on the end of the race. But that is it for race number 2 here at F4 CEZ from Most. See you guys tomorrow at 9 a.m. sharp for race number 3. Thank you for being with us, and goodbye.